We're back again. We're not as mad as we normally are. Or maybe we're not mad. I don't know. Of course, you already know our names if you're this far in, then. But if not, and this is the first time you started listening to us, I'm Jared, and this is my co-host,
Anthony.
Yeah, there we go. We've never practiced that.
No.
Tonight, we're going to talk about shooter games, games with guns, games that we played when we was youngs. It doesn't have to rhyme, I guess. I don't know. But, so, I don't know. We talked about all the different other kinds of games, and we haven't talked about these games, but they were also just as influential in our lives when we were growing up, as I'm sure many of you, or maybe you're a new young gamer and you just got into them and you found out gun games are for you. I don't know if they're necessarily my cup of tea. How about you?
Yeah, I think even when we were putting together this list, a lot of the things that we were saying had to be kind of like weeded out because they were actually RPGs, which I think that speaks a lot for how, I guess not how little we think of first-person shooters, but of just like that wasn't really our thing. You know what I mean? We were more focused on other things, but there were still some really good games that we found.
We grew up in a time where you played everything. Nobody had like a certain, or at least what the groups that we ran with. There was no guy that was like the FPS guy. Like you had to be good at all the games that we played that were available to play, and we all were expected to buy said games. So when a game came out, everybody got it, and then we would talk about it. But it kind of changed as we grew. Then we did kind of get the RPG guy and the fighting game guy and or gal. It didn't matter. It's just whoever was playing. And then you would know, hey, what do you think of that RPG that came out, Mr. RPG guy? I thought it was good. I think you should play it. I played it. I thought it was dumb. How dare you? And then we'd fight. Bam, bam, bam.
Yeah.
No. So I think it's only right that we try to frame this in a sense that makes sense, like side scrollers and arcade games, and then move on to the boomer shooters that then became the FPS genre that we know today. That is wide. It's very wide. But some of the first side scroller shooter games that I played, I didn't play Contra, really. I think I'd seen it. Maybe I'd played it at a friend's house, but not really. Did you ever play Contra?
No. It's kind of same as you. I kind of went back later as I was an older, kind of had a little bit more of a mature taste and went back and played it. But yeah, even then it was very limited and very contained because those games the story is so limited and it's so much about the action that you're getting from going over and saving the girl who's tied up, or you shoot the bad guy and get a tank or something like that. Those things were already kind of integrated into other games, and I just gravitated towards those other games.
It's quite obvious that I like the side-scroller shooter types because that's how we got Mega Man.
Yeah.
And Mega Man X and things like that. But I'll never forget this. The first time that I really sunk my teeth into a side-scroller shooter game, it was Metal Slug, and me and my younger brother Bryce, we talk about him all the time on here, he and I were in a GameStop, and they had just released like the anthology for Metal Slug games, which are beloved arcade shooters, side-scrollers. They're really super fun, especially with a partner. And we stood there for probably an hour and played that game. And then we turned around and bought it.
Yep. I think as ironic as it is, the side scroller shooter is probably where we have spent more multiplayer time than we have in first person shooter games, if that even makes sense.
That makes sense to me. I mean, jumping forward really fast, probably the most played multiplayer first person shooter for me was probably Portal and Portal 2. Yeah. I played those with fucking Lemon.
Yep.
You can imagine how that went. He solved the puzzles, and I was like, why am I here? Am I helping?
I stand on the buttons.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, I need you because you got to control the other guy because it won't let me. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. This is fun. We're saving science. So there was tons of those side-scrolling shooter games. I don't know which ones exactly that you played. If you have any like strong memories about any of them, instead of asking what's your favorite one, what are the ones you have a strong memory about?
So much like you, I was introduced to this game by your brother Bryce, the game Broforce, which it's a very heavily influenced by Contra and that style of game, Metal Slug, that style of side scroller shooter. I think the thing that set it apart was kind of the very heavy machismo. I guess you could almost even say like counterfeit action hero characters. Rambo, Arnold Schwarzenegger. Like those are characters that are in the game, very clearly ripped straight from the movies that they represent. And I think maybe that's kind of what was missing from Metal Slug and Contra. I didn't really. I guess as dumb as this sounds, I don't want a game that's glorifying, the kind of militarization and stuff like that. But when you crank it up to 11 and you turn it into kind of like this hyper machismo, hyper nationalism, hyper, like you complete the level and it shoots off fireworks and American flags are going off and bald eagles are screeching. That gets me going. You know what I mean? Like that. Like if you're gonna do it, don't do it to a 10. Turn it to 11 and go all out and make it as crazy and obnoxious as you possibly can.
We're certainly not here to talk about the connotations of gun games and gun violence.
Yeah.
It's not something. We're just here talking about those games. Well, I guess that's a topic. We lived through that.
Yeah,
gun games make people violent. True. I mean, no. Wait.
Wait. You're agreeing with him.
Fuck. No, but those games are really interesting, I think, especially like you said, the hyper machoism. I mean, we grew up with fucking Arnold Schwarzenegger hanging out the side of a helicopter with like a fucking 249 in one hand shooting. Yeah, of course that stuff gets us going. It's fantasy to me. I know guys can't really do that shit. I just think it looks fucking cool.
Exactly.
That's fucking cool. How'd she do that? I don't care. That looks fucking sick. So my first, I'm just gonna jump back into the FPS games because that was my goal here anyway. I don't know about you, and I don't really have much more to talk about with the side scrollers. I mean, aside from like this one movie game, it was a game made from the movie Lawnmower Man. Have you ever seen that movie?
No, I haven't.
It's fucking weird. It's like a virtual reality world with Pierce Brosnan, I believe. I can't remember who else is in it, but they made this side scroller shooter game, and it was so weird. But we played the game before we saw the movie ever. I don't think I saw that movie until I was like an adult. I don't know why we had that. I think we had that because my older brother, we called him the Lawnmower Man because he would just complain about having to mow the lawn, and it was really comical. And so somebody got us that game. We got your game for you. And then it's just like this gun game, and we're like, what's this have to do with mowing lawns? I don't know if I can get it. That's like the extent of my arcade shooter game experience, I think, is Metal Slug, Lawnmower Man. That's it. Maybe there's okay. But I guess we didn't really talk about like the Metroid and stuff. We could talk about that or whatever you want to.
Well, go ahead because you're the. I didn't have Nintendo and stuff growing up, so really Super Metroid and Metroid Fusion. That's your jam more so than it is mine.
Well, and okay. Two, you got to understand, I didn't have Super Metroid on the Super Nintendo. I had it on the fucking Game Boy Advance. Again, I was a super hardcore handheld guy. I loved handheld gaming. And they put Super Metroid and Metroid Fusion on the Game Boy Advance, and those were some incredible experiences. Those games were so fun. And they've got the Castlevania, Metroidvania, the whole shebang. That's where that came from. But I guess I could classify those as like RPG shooters, right? We were talking about that. We'll just throw those in here. Maybe we will talk about some of those games that we were going to weed out. But I just really loved those games. I can remember playing those all over the place and thinking about like how messed up is this story in Fusion that Samus gets fused with like a Metroid in Fusion. It's weird. It's a weird game.
I always think it's funny when, as somebody who is not kind of in that ecosystem, in the Nintendo world, when a game gets so good that it gets kind of like filtered into my realm of hype and like things that I get excited about, I think the Metroid series is one of those series of games. It's kind of up there with very limited games in the Legend of Zelda series where I remember playing. They were on GameCube, I want to say, and they were a first-person shooter. But you're right, it was almost like a combination of first-person shooter and a like adventure game where you're kind of doing like jump puzzles, and you had different weapons that you could use that would have different effects on the environment. And I just remember like the story of the game was so good, and it's in that package of a first person shooter, so it's something that you can kind of present to somebody who's not in the Nintendo world and say, look, we have these mature games as well where we're tackling these things that other franchises are doing. And so that, for me, that's where I have my experience with the Metroid series, is kind of in that GameCube era. I think they made 3 of them, first person shooters, and I really enjoyed those.
Really, just Metroid is really just an awesome game system, game type, whatever, its own genre. Really awesome science fiction. The lead is a female, really cool. I
Well,
mean,
spoiler alert.
she fucking 30 years. Fucking biggest reveal in Nintendo history.
Great, it's ruined now.
Metroid's a girl? Her name's not Metroid, guys.
Yeah, it's Zelda.
Yes, it is. It's on the box. And his name is Zelda. It's on the box. Hey, Nintendo, help. They won't. They're like, no, fucking no. Metroid can die. I didn't even play the Dread game. I feel bad. I should have bought it. I don't have time or money to buy games anymore. I just look at them and go, that looks cool, and move on with my life. But yeah, man, I would go back and play Super Metroid and Metroid Fusion again. Like you said, you get all the different like gun types. You get like the wave beam, and they do different stuff like electric and stuff, and it's really cool. You get the suit power ups. I always love that suit powering up your character. That's RPG elements that I really enjoy. Of course, like we're talking about, what we want to talk about is shooter games, FPS games in general. We're just going to keep shooter, jump back to it, dodge roll, whatever. So the game that we probably missed out on, because probably neither of us had PCs. My mom had a PC, but I wasn't really allowed to use it, and I'm sure you didn't either. Doom came out when we were kids, and it really propelled the first person shooter games. It was a boomer shooter now, that's what they call them, not like our parents boomers, but like boom boom.
Yeah.
And I've gone back and played Doom. I love it. It is incredible. I fucking love pixel art. It's so nostalgic to me. And then going back and playing a game that was in 3D, but it's just pixel art. What an incredible experience that game is. It is so fun. I see why people talk about it.
The art style was amazing. Just the variety of things that you could do in that game for the time period when it came out. It really did feel like you were immersed in this world. And, obviously jumping the shark here, we played Doom, was it 2016 when the remake came out? We played that, and you and I were just absolutely lost in that game, completely immersed in it. We found a YouTuber who could literally, he would run through and beat levels without taking any damage on the hardest level, but he would like pre-kill enemies before they had even loaded in. And you and I would watch those videos and just like get super geeked out, go back and play the game, die instantly, and wish we could be at that level. But yeah, those boomer shooters, that style of game where you're just fighting for your life, pouring ammo out of your guns, killing wave after wave of enemies. Oh man. You feel like exhausted when you get done with those type of games. Like you feel like you were fighting the fight.
Man, you talk about, I just wanted to jump in so hard when you brought up, I totally forgot about that guy. The fucking Doom guy, the actual Doom guy, that was fucking crazy. That guy was so good. No fucking HUD, hardest difficulty, fucking flip through the guns. I learned stuff from watching his videos, keybinded some of my weapons so that maybe I could remotely operate it on a similar level. That guy would fucking shred me if I was in like a multiplayer setting with him. He so good. I mean, wow. But I mean, the reason I like the Doom games is because they play like how I want to play an FPS game. I'm too fucking I get like gross motor function fucking overload or something, and I can't keep track of all that shit and also aim the gun. Give me the shotgun. Give me the explosives.
Think about all of the mechanics that are not in Doom. You never reload. You never aim down sights. You literally hold down the trigger and hope you have enough bullets to defeat the enemies that are in front of you. And like you said, when your gun runs out of ammo, you pull out a chainsaw and you rip it into the enemy, and then that refills your ammo. You know what I mean? Like, it's just a visceral. I mean, if you were going to show a video game to like your parent and be like, "This is why kids should never be allowed to play video games," that would 100. It's got religious connotations. It's got like pure violence for violence's sake, the fetish of violence. And I love it. It's like the best game of all time because of those reasons. Because it doesn't take itself serious. Because the protagonist doesn't care about anything other than killing demons from hell. All of the humans in the world are completely stupid. They make the most brain dead decisions in the world. And then he just cleans up the mess. It's amazing. It's a perfect game.
I think it takes itself pretty serious. The lore is very serious. I don't know what you're talking about. No, but man, there's no hope. There's no hope in Doom.
Yeah.
You're the hope. I don't have to worry. I don't worry about my gun running out of ammo. I just move on to the next gun, like you said, and then you chainsaw them. When man, 2016 was fucking incredible. What a great Doom 2016 was an incredible game. Okay, that game was awesome. Doom Eternal, what the fuck, even better. Wow, how can you take the formula that you had and then fucking crank it up? Okay, you got to understand too, is like the music in Doom. The original Doom was very iconic, and it still is. And there's a really awesome music cover guy, video game cover guy. I can't remember his name right now. I wish could, because I listen to his cover all the time of at Doom's Gate. Probably if you typed it in, you would find it. But man, that like fucking that guy. Oh my god. So the other thing that you got to talk about when you talk about the original Doom is the modding community around it. It's really robust, very robust. You can mod the fuck out of that game, and it is amazing. So if you don't like what they have to offer in the fucking 90s, you can get Brutal Doom, or there's a couple others that like bring it up to standards of modern, but it still has that pixel art style. And man, is that a fun experience. Spend a weekend, mod the game. It's like $2 or something on Steam. I don't know how much it is, but fucking get it and play it. Play it. It's fun as fuck. Then you can be Doom guy.
I think that is a really good example of, a lot of times when we talk about modding games, we talk about mods fixing games or fixing things that are broken. I think Doom is one of the very rare examples of every single mod that you download is in service of the game. It's adding to the game. It's not fixing something that's broken. It's giving you something more, as opposed to like Fallout or the Elder Scrolls series, where game mechanics are literally broken. Quest lines are literally broken. I don't think there's ever been a Doom mod where it's like, hey, my shotgun doesn't work. Fix my shotgun. It's literally, I put a shotgun on top of my shotgun and now I have 4 shotguns. Like those are the Doom mods I love them for it. You're exactly right. It's worth a weekend of just pouring through them and seeing what ridiculous you can find.
There's a really ridiculous one where somebody, I don't know if they finished it, but they made fucking Zelda 1 in Doom. And it is so fucking awesome. I played that for several hours. I was just like, this is incredible. Like I've played Zelda 1 I don't know how many times in my life. I love that game. I got it memorized. And fuck, man, playing that in 3D was the coolest experience ever. I was like, this is so fucking cool. And so like you're in Zelda 1 like graphics, right? Everything's like, it looks like Zelda 1, but you got fucking Doom graphics for your sword and your hand and your shield. Oh my god, it's so funny. I was like, this is the fucking best thing ever. Oh man, I loved that. I don't know. We're jumping all over the place here, and that's okay. But if we're going to talk about first-person shooters, my core memory of playing FPS games comes from GoldenEye. Fuck, that game was awesome. I'm sure you played GoldenEye. I know you didn't have a N64, but I'm sure you played it.
Yep. This is another one of those games where it was so good, it kind of permeated that circle to where, I don't have the system, and I felt like I was playing it all the time because you would go over to a friend's house or you would have a get together and just play with your friends. That, I think, was one of the very first multiplayer games where you could legitimately improve your skill and craft at the game to the point where you could like, I'm going to pick up this gun. I know what this gun can do. I know how many bullets it's going to take to put you down. Let's find each other on the map and let's do this. You know what I mean? Like, oh man, that game was so much fun. I honestly don't think I've played a single level of single player GoldenEye to this day. I don't think I have.
You've never played through the game? Oh
Never
my
played through the single
God,
player.
son, we need to get you to play that game.
Yep.
The single player campaign is fucking awesome. It is so fucking good. Oh man, that game is what broke me as far as like video games about like movies and shit. Cause like, oh great, here's this fucking, we got GoldenEye. Cause I mean, we loved James Bond when we were kids, and my dad loved him too. So obviously he's gonna get us a James Bond game for the new James Bond movie we just saw, and plus it was 4-player. So anything that was once again N64 in my house where we got four boys, we need to be able to play together something. And that game we could all sit down and play it. I don't remember when we were talking about this, but weren't you talking about putting cardboard on the fucking screen? I wish we had done that.
Yep. So what you would do is everybody would have your corner, and we cut like a little slit in the cardboard so that you could slide the two pieces together, and then you would tape it to the TV, and everybody had your corner. There's no screen peeking. It's you have your screen, and you can't cheat and peek at somebody else's. Yeah, we would do that all the time.
No, dude. Screen looking was part of it, man. It had to be. Here's the other thing, too, is those stages, there wasn't a lot of design elements there. Like, it was like a fucking maze. So even if you were screen looking, you only had a rough idea where people were. And then people would be like, well, I don't want to play with the radar on. I'm like, why? I'm just going to beat your ass anyway. Go ahead, turn it off. Fucking, I'll fuck you up. That was a fucking fun game. And then, of course, shortly after its release, Rare made their own FPS game with their own IP, which was Perfect Dark. And holy fuck. Have you ever played that campaign mode? Please tell me you played.
I absolutely played the campaign in this
yes!
game. As much as I like GoldenEye, Perfect Dark was exponentially better in every single way. I loved Perfect Dark.
We got to play through that again. We should play through that again. Oh my fucking God, dude. That game was so awesome. I'm so sad to this day that we never really got a resurgence of Perfect Dark. I preferred that to GoldenEye. I loved don't get me wrong, I love GoldenEye, but I preferred to play Perfect Dark. First of all, obviously, a lot better stuff going on. Everything's better. But also the story was so unique. I love those the alien guns and stuff. Oh my God. That game was crazy.
The story being revolved around a female protagonist. Back in those days, that was crazy. I think that might have even predated Lara Croft on the PlayStation 1.
Did it? I don't think so. Did it?
And maybe it didn't. Maybe I'm wrong on that. But like, yeah, gosh dang it, you're exactly right. It was like they took GoldenEye, which was an amazing game, one of the most classic and of all time multiplayer games, whatever you want to call it. And then they were just like, well, let's just make it again and we'll just add to it. It's literally GoldenEye 2. They just removed all of the licensing IP and all of that stuff and made their own game. And it was so much better for it because they were allowed to expand and kind of be free with the story. And it was incredible. The guns were amazing. They all had unique effects. They all had secondary abilities that you could use to give them, kind of like that. You had your primary fire and then your secondary fire, which every game has that now. But back then, that was revolutionary. Gosh dang, I just remember, like you said, the level design in GoldenEye was very bland because you were dealing with militaristic bunkers and buildings and stuff like that. So everything was very drab, very brown. And then you go to Perfect Dark, and it was like the complete opposite. Everything was like alien and brightly colored and crazy. Yeah, it was vastly better in my mind.
Yo, I just looked it up. You're fucking right. And that just jazzed me up so much. I don't know why. The fucking Perfect Dark came out a year before Tomb Raider. Now, that's not to say that those games weren't in development around the same time.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of themes there.
That was just an era where every single protagonist was a dark-haired white man who John insert name of game, and he just ran around and was a badass. And it's like, eventually you want to have diversity. You want to have those other people who are represented. And then me, who is that, I am a white person with dark hair. I get to live through the experience of someone else and see how they would handle those situations or live through the lens of their life. That makes it so much more enjoyable for me just from that aspect.
I just thought of it. Okay, two things. A, paintball mode.
Yep.
Fuck yeah, right? I found paintball mode to be way more fun because the color, it was so colorful. Obviously, there was all this like there can't be blood in games when we was kids, and so they would add modes like this. But the other thing that made me think of it, that when I thought of paintball mode, I thought of this other game that I played, Turok.
Yes.
Fucking Turok, bro. That game was fucking badass. Dinosaurs, and we're talking about diversity. Native American guy. Yo.
Yep.
Bring back Turok. Maybe it is back. I don't know. I don't pay attention. I live under a rock.
Yeah. Bring it back, but put it on Steam and put it on sale for $10.
It probably is on Steam. There's probably a Turok game on Steam right now, and we're full of shit because we don't play first-person shooters, sir.
Yeah.
What
right.
are we? We're spending a whole episode on this for you folks. First-person shooters. Okay, so PC gaming. Finally got to play a little bit. Would go to you. Maybe you ever went to. I don't want to say their name on here because I don't want to like.
We'll call them Steve. I know who you're talking about.
Sam and his brother.
Yeah.
Sam and Tim. I think we can say that. We're not.
Sure. Yeah. We just won't use last names.
Yeah. We would go to their house, and those motherfuckers, I don't know what the fuck. They had a shit ton of PCs. Like, they would be like, we're going to have a LAN party. And I'd be like, I don't have a PC. They're like, it's fine. And I'm like, okay. And then you would go over there, and we play fucking Half-Life. We would play Unreal Tournament. We would play Quake. I'd never played any of these fucking games. And it was so crazy to go from the sluggishness of the 64's gameplay to this fucking speed rocket of a FPS game. Holy fuck, those games were so fun. Did you play those games at their house, maybe?
Yeah, at their house. Yeah, that's how I played it, was at their house. I didn't have a strong enough PC back then to play those games. But again, you're right. It was like they just had those things lying around. So you would go hang out with them, and it was like, yeah, just hop on the computer. We'll play. I came from a family where you had a computer room where you had to ask permission to go up and use it and make sure nobody was on the phone. Yeah, I'd go over there and play those. And you're exactly right. It was just like everything was so fast and, whizzing around you. I'm trying to figure out what the buttons are. I don't know what my gun does. It's just like, shoot him. I'm trying.
Dude, they had that was the first time they got to play like a robot guy in a game. It was so fucking cool. And you get like the flat cannon. I think this is Unreal I'm talking about here. I'm pretty sure. Man, that game was so fucking fun. Oh, man. That was a fun ass time playing those games. Of course, Quake and stuff came from the Doom world, I think. I don't know. I don't have a good, strong history there. There's some other games on this PC list that I remember people talking about, and all I've ever seen is the movie is Max Payne. Did you play Max Payne?
So I'm assuming you never played it then. Yeah, I played it, and I really enjoyed, I think there were 3 of them, I want to say. Maybe only 2. I think there might have been one on the PlayStation 3. But yeah, I really enjoyed those games. Kind of that gritty noir cop story. Yeah, I really enjoyed them. Obviously, I don't think there was multiplayer on that game, so it really wasn't something that you could play with friends. But I remember the single player being very good, very gritty, very raw, kind of in that era where all games were trying to be that, and then that one kind of stood out just because of it was you had to take something that everybody else was doing and just turn it up to 11. And I think that's what Max Payne did. Kind of turned it to 11 to an extent to, I think by the third one, I think he was like retired, I want to say. And then it was like, I'm coming back for one more job. And then just absolutely blew the entire town up.
I guess that's in the vein of third person. That's okay.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
But they were fucking... So, they would always have to tell a story with our FPS game. Because I only ever got to really play the solo campaign on those kind of games where you only had one controller. You couldn't have multiplayer. Me and my brothers didn't have 4 computers to play through a game, or where there'd be multiplayer stuff like Unreal and stuff. So we were lucky to have GoldenEye and Perfect Dark, at least in the N64 era. I don't know. But I remember my youngest brother getting into the Call of Duty games. I only ever played, I think it was World at War. And that game kind of traumatized me. And I was like, because I played the campaign, and like you play... one of the characters has my same last name, and he ends up dying in the story. And I was like, this is what would happen to me if I was in war because I'm a fat turd. My back hurts. My back didn't hurt then.
So back in the day, back before all of the modern warfare and all of that stuff, every single first-person shooter was World War II. So Call of Duty 1, 2, 3, and then I think there were 3 more offshoots of, it was just called Call of Duty and then the suffix name. They were all different battles in World War II, and I ate them up. I loved those games. They were some of my favorite. I mean, that's my favorite period of history to study and learn about, and playing those games was so cool. And you were right. Some of them were very graphic, and I mean, you could almost call them inappropriate for the time because you're right. There were some very like horrific scenes being portrayed in those games. And gosh dang, I loved them. And then obviously once it started getting into the modern warfare era with 4, I kind of fell off. The multiplayer was amazing. I loved playing multiplayer all the way up until Modern Warfare 2, but I can't hang with those type of players. I don't have the reflexes and muscle memory to play those type of games. You have to literally memorize the maps, memorize the guns, all of that stuff, and I just didn't have the practice in those type of games.
The other popular like war series games that I played were the Battlefield games. I played some of those, but mostly online with our buddy Josh. And I remember getting, this is obviously a little bit more recent. I played Battlefield 4 for a while. And then I was just like, this isn't for me, man. I don't like logging in and just like fucking getting killed over and over. Like that sucks.
I think actually, did you ever play any of the Battlefield Bad Company games?
No.
Okay, so those were much more single player focused, and they had a story that I think you would gravitate much more towards. It was a 4-man squad, and they were much more goofy and silly. Actually, I think in the second one they make fun of Call of Duty in one of the missions, but it was very much a parody game. They realized how absurd the genre was becoming, and so they kind of released this subgenre of game, Bad Company 1 and 2, and they were very fun single player experiences that I don't think had any multiplayer tied to them. Those were very fun.
I remember people talking about those games. I'm sitting over there playing fucking Warcraft. I'm playing a fucking fantasy game, so leave me alone.
The other series that was kind of tied into that World War II era was the Medal of Honor series. I don't know if you played any of those.
Oh, yeah. Yep, my youngest brother had those games too.
Yeah. So again, it was literally the exact same side of the coin. You had Call of Duty, Battlefield, and Medal of Honor. Medal of Honor obviously started to die off once everybody started moving away from World War II. But yeah, I mean, that was, again, another really fun multiplayer game where that was where the cardboard cutouts came from, because in that game, sniping was incredibly fun. So you would just, all 4 people would pick a sniper rifle and we would just hunker down and pick each other off. I think that style kind of died with everything started moving towards modern, and futuristic Call of Duty and Battlefield. And I think that kind of, it's ironic because in fantasy games, I enjoy Fallout much more than I enjoy Elder Scrolls. But when it came to military games, I much prefer reality. I don't want this to be a made-up war. I want this to be a learning experience. This is historic. This is something that happened, as opposed to this is some made-up war against 2 made-up nations.
To me, that's the Dynasty Warriors.
Exactly, yeah.
I learned so much about the Romancing Kingdoms from those Dynasty Warriors games, man. I fucking loved them. I think this is probably we're getting pretty close to time here on this episode, but I really want to continue this because there's still quite a few games here that are on this list, and we're jumping all over the place, and we haven't talked about Halo. We did mention Prime, Metroid Prime. I'd like to talk about that. Spend a brief second talking about Crysis and Left 4 Dead, Team Fortress, and of course bringing us to where my love for FPS games came to die in Overwatch. So tune in next time for that. Say goodbye,
See ya.
Anthony. Yeah. See ya.
See ya.